Hey guys, what's up? It is the one and only RJ21 here, and today I'm going to be recapping the events of week 6 of Big Brother 25 and giving my updated power rankings. And trust me, you're going to want to stay for the power rankings because they've changed quite a bit. Week 6 started off with a quiz comp in which Cameron won HOH, becoming the first house guest to win multiple HOHs this season. Before the nomination ceremony, Cameron was telling everybody that he intended on repeating his previous HOH, nominating Blue and Jag with the intention of getting Jag out. However, at the nomination ceremony, Cameron blindsided everybody by nominating Felicia and Izzy because he had been blindsided the previous week and wanted to get revenge and avenge his fallen ally in Red. Cameron tells Jared then that he has this big master plan in play, which was lying to the entire house about nominating Blue and Jag and then putting Izzy and Felicia up. But he still has more of his plan that he wants to execute. Coming into the veto competition, Cameron, Felicia, and Izzy, along with Matt, Jared, and Jag, as selected by random draw, compete in the power veto competition, which ends up being the prize swap power veto, which was hosted by Josh Duhamel in order to sponsor the new CBS reality TV show Buddy Games. Josh Duhamel was actually there to host the competition, which was crazy in and of itself, but it makes sense for promoting the new show and whatnot. The prizes end up coming out like this. Izzy comes out with a Piggy Pals punishment in which she and one house guest of her choice have to scoop 2,000 cups of dirt in the backyard, and if they can't do it in 12 hours, Izzy would be ineligible to compete in the power veto next week. Felicia ended up with a kayak buddies punishment in which both herself and one house guest of her choice, which she ended up choosing as Suri, would have to move around the entire house and be stuck to one another in a kayak for the next 48 hours. And Matt got the Duhamel a Maniac punishment, which means that he had to carry around a life-size cardboard cutout of Josh Duhamel everywhere he went and take selfies with him periodically throughout the week. In terms of prizes, Cameron ended up getting a European vacation, Jag ended up getting $5,000, and Jared ended up winning the power of veto. It's at this point Cameron reveals to Jared that his plan is for Jared to take Felicia off of the block and to put Suri up, but not for Suri to go home. The only reason he wants Suri to go up is because he wants Suri and Izzy to sit next to each other because they're best friends and they're going to be forced to campaign against one another to stay in the house, as a sort of revenge for him having to sit next to two of his closest allies and have them get sent out the house. Obviously, Jared doesn't want to do that because he doesn't want to risk his mom going up, so he chooses to not use the power veto, leaving the nominations intact. At this point, it seems like a foregone conclusion that Felicia is going to be going home because Izzy just simply had better relationships with people in the house. However, a flip is initiated by the likes of America and Cameron, with Corey being the one to finalize the flip with the information he was given. A major flip happens, and they actually are able to execute it in that they get the likes of Corey, America, and then they get the likes of Matt, Jag, Bowie Jane, and me, Cole, to all agree to vote to evict Izzy. And it seems like this plan is going to go through. But then, on the day of the eviction, before the feeds cut off, before the live show, Jared and Corey get into a huge argument in which Jared absolutely blows up his own entire game, and Corey exposes all of the lies that he's been telling to everybody in the house, actively tanking both his position, Suri's position, and the likelihood of Izzy staying. By the time of the live eviction, Izzy is evicted by a vote of 8-1, with Suri throwing one sympathy vote Izzy's way as a sign of respect and as a sign of love. However, that's not the end of it. It's revealed at the end of the live show that the jury stage has not actually started yet, and they're not having a jury of 9, but rather they're having a jury of 7, meaning the next 2 people evicted are still not going to be on the jury. And in addition to that, the next eviction episode is going to be a live double eviction, meaning 2 house guests are going home in one night. The house dynamics have completely flipped. I talked about in previous weeks how Suri Izzy and Jared had essentially had an iron grip and a vice grip on the entire social dynamics of the house. But that has completely changed and completely flipped. Now, Jared is now one of the house targets, and the likes of Corey, America, Matt, and Jag are now in the power position and a part of the new majority alliance that is formed. It seems like Jared's position is starting to get tanked more and more as more of his lies are getting exposed, and he is now basically the next house target after Cameron. So, as it stands right now, it's essentially a new game. It's a new slate. It seems like everybody is starting fresh in terms of making their alliances. People who weren't essentially working together in the past are now starting to come together and realize that they were getting played by the likes of Suri and all of her close allies. So now they've now formed a counter alliance to go after Suri's side. They may not be actively targeting Suri herself, but they're still coming after all of her numbers. Most likely just Jared, because Jared is not very good at Big Brother, and he's not in that position very well in the house, which I think you will all see once we get to the power ranking. But as it stands right now, the dynamics of the house have shifted completely, where Suri is no longer in the power position that she was, and she's now seeming to be fighting on the bottom, trying to grasp at straws to improve her position, while the likes of Corey, America, and maybe even a Matt and Jag are starting to take the reins and starting to take control over the house. Just a quick disclaimer, this video is being filmed after the HOH competition and the nomination ceremony and the veto picks. So I know who the HOH is, who they nominated, and who got picked to play in the power of veto. And this information will be impacting my power ranking. So just please keep that in mind. But with all of that being said, let's actually get into the power ranking. At number 12, the most recently evicted house guest, we have Izzy. And it's really unfortunate to lose Izzy this week. I mean, losing either Izzy or Felicia this week was going to be disappointing, but losing Izzy especially seems to be a really big down for this season, because she was an amazing character. She was an amazing personality, and she was a really active game player. And it's so unfortunate to lose her this early. I know people were dissing her game very early on for how sloppy and for how messy she was playing the game, but I think it's undeniable how entertaining and how chaotic of a figure she was. She brought so much life to the live feeds. Like, her gameplay was just so energetic and sporadic, and she has so many clips and sound bites associated with her name. It's so funny. I think she might be, like, unintentionally one of the funniest house guests in the entire cast. It's her run on this season, strategically speaking, is obviously questionable. You know, the choosing to immediately reveal to Jared and Suri that she knows their secret and kind of blackmailing them into forcing herself to work with them is a little bit like sketchy, a little bit questionable, and a lot of the flip-flopping she was doing with Suri is also very questionable. But in terms of entertainment, she was amazing. Like, it might be a little premature to say this, but I would be completely fine if Izzy came back next season and played again. She was just such a chaotic figure, and she seems like she has a really good head on her shoulders. Even though she's only been watching the show for a year, it seems like she's picked up on a lot of the game abilities and the inner workings of the strategies of the game, and it seems like she has a really solid head on her shoulders that could do really well in any other given circumstance. I mean, the fact that she was able to put herself in this power position throughout a majority of the game is already impressive in and of itself. So if she came into a new season with new people and not Suri or any other Survivor players, I think she would do really well. But honestly, with this season alone, I'm really sad to see Izzy go, and I hope we see her on Big Brother in the future. Now it's time to get into the actual power rankings. At number 11, the person who I believe to be in the worst position in the house is Cameron. And straight up, Cameron sucks. I don't know what else to say. Cameron sucks at Big Brother. He had this opportunity to make a big move, and he did do it, but he's just so actively bad at the game that nobody trusts him. Even though a group of the house formed together to execute Cameron's plan in getting Izzy out, they didn't include Cameron in on that plan because they just don't trust him that much. It's honestly astounding how bad Cameron tanked his game early on to the point where even though he got a big target out and he shook up the entire house structure, he's still house target number 1. And he did get picked to play in the power veto, and there is an opportunity for him to save himself. But if he didn't get picked, he was the clearest backdoor target. And that is horrible. That is a horrible position to be in. He actively has nobody in his corner fighting for him to stay. The only person who would keep Cameron safe is Cameron. And he's going to have to win out from this point moving forward if he wants even a semblance of a chance of making it to the finale or even the end game at this point. I fully expect Cameron to be going sometime this week. Either it's under Jared's HOH this week or it's during the double. I expect Cameron to be going home soon. I really don't expect him to be on the jury because he's just that big of a target. There is obviously a possibility of Cameron winning competitions to keep himself safe, but that is such an unreliable strategy, and he just doesn't seem like the type of person to have pulled a Kevin Martin from Big Brother Canada 5 and study every single competition. It just seems like he's a naturally good competitor. It just doesn't translate that well into his social play. Strategically, he seems fine enough. He recognizes some of the things that he needs to do in the game in terms of who to take out and who to align himself with. He does recognize some of those things, but he's not very good at executing them. I think this whole segment is just me ragging on Cameron for how bad of a player he is and how bad of a position he is, because he's in a horrible position, and I really don't see any way out for him anytime soon, which is why I have him here at number 11. At number 10, I have Jared, and Jared sucks. Like, it sucks to say. No, it doesn't. Jared just sucks at Big Brother. I think he's proving week after week how bad he is at the game and how bad he is at holding information. He just talks way too much, and he tells way too many people different lies to the point where people are going to start comparing notes about Jared and realize that he's playing all of them. And that's exactly what happened. The likes of Corey and Matt and Jag came together and started talking and realized Jared has been lying to all of them for weeks on end. And that actively not only ruined Jared's position, but sent Izzy out of the house and ruined Cerie's position in the house. His poor gameplay is actively ruining other people's games. And it's disappointing for like Cerie, because Cerie had spent weeks constructing this power structure through her subtle social play, and Jared just came in like a bulldozer and just ruined everything because he talks too much. And I don't know if he's going to be able to recover. He is the HOH this week, and that is good for him, and that he does want to target the likes of Cameron, which is good for him. But this all but sets him up to go home in the double eviction, where he cannot play an HOH, and then he's going to have to depend on the likes of Cerie or Felicia or Nicole to win an HOH. And not even Nicole is that like central or that confident in keeping Jared off the block. So in actuality, it's only really Cerie and Felicia that are guaranteed to keep Jared safe. And based on their previous performances in other competitions, I don't have that high of hopes in Cerie or Felicia winning a competition, because usually a double eviction HOH is some sort of like quiz comp like that, because it's just the quickest thing to do. And even in the last quiz comp they had, the one that Cameron won, Cerie and Felicia didn't do that well. So it's going to be very unreliable for Jared to depend on them to win an HOH to keep him safe. So he's essentially all but confirmed to go home in this next double eviction. Honestly, his run on this season has been nothing but sloppy. He's benefited from Cerie being in the house more so than Cerie benefits from him being in the house. And even though he has this huge advantage and has this game being served up to him on a silver platter, he's still actively making the worst decisions possible to get him in the worst position possible. And now he's essentially guaranteed to go home next round. And that's horrible for him. And with all of that bad gameplay aside, or all that bad gameplay together, I have to put Jared here at number 10. At number 9, I have Jared's showman's partner, Blue. And I think I've been so hard on Blue in the past weeks because I was really high on her in the preseason. I thought she was going to be this feisty, sassy, like character that we've seen in the past with the likes of like a Spicy V from BB Can 9, and I thought she was going to be some sort of similar thing, and she was going to be playing the game actively to support that personality or that character she's portraying. But time and time again throughout this entire season, I've been disappointed. She sucks at Big Brother. Like, straight up, she sucks. She is passive when she needs to be active, and when she is active, she's actively making the worst decisions for her game possible. She was blindly loyal to Jared, but she was privy or exposed to the information about how Jared has been lying and how Jared has been playing the entire house. But now Blue is making the worst strategic decisions possible, where she's now saying if she wins HOH, she would put up Jared and Cirie. And it's like, Jared may be lying, but he hasn't been lying to you. And Jared is actively winning competitions to keep you safe. So why would you want to take him out where you are now leaving yourself vulnerable to be taken out? Where Blue is not in as good of a position as Matt or Jag, two people that she's trying to rebuild her relationship with. She doesn't have that sort of protection that they have. So if Blue is left on the block next to somebody like I don't know, maybe like a Bowie Jane or something like that, Blue is probably not going to have the numbers to stay. Blue is not in a very good position, and she doesn't have much longevity for the long haul. She might get taken to the end by Jared as like an easy beat in the final two, but even then, I don't think that's going to be a possibility, because eventually, if Jared isn't taken out during the double, Jared would probably get put up on the block next to Blue to ensure that showmance gets split up. So overall, Blue is playing this game horribly, and she's actively putting herself in a worse position than she should be. She is trying to do good work and trying to reassociate herself with the likes of Matt and Jag, which is good in the short term, but long term, she doesn't have any sort of runway, and I don't see her winning this game anytime soon, which is why I have her here at number 9. At number 8, I have Jag. And Jag is in a bit of a mixed position right now. He's still actively being targeted by Cirie's side of the house, where Jag is the backup target. If Cameron wins veto and takes probably America off the block, Jag is probably going to get put up, and Jag is most likely going to go home, which is very unfortunate. But Jag has been recently ingratiated into this new majority alliance with himself and Matt and Corey and America, and they're possibly pulling in people like a Nicole or a Bowie Jane. And if he can remain in that majority position, he's going to be set for a long time in the game. But I still fear that he's going to be actively targeted and taken out, because there's just no way somebody like a Corey or an America is just going to let Jag slip by. I feel like they're going to take Jag out sooner rather than later. And I think that's just what Jag's position has been in this entire game. It's just he's been this house target that's going to be taken out sooner rather than later. And I think that's just through a majority of his own like bad gameplay. The fact that people like Corey and America are calling Jag the worst player to ever play Big Brother is not good for his game. People are actively seeing him as somebody who is unreliable, somebody who not necessarily can't be trusted, but somebody that is going to be difficult to work with in the future. And that's horrible for his game. If he survives this week, he's probably still going to be a target next week, where the likes of, if like Cirie or Felicia do end up winning HOH during the double eviction, there's a very high likelihood that Jag is going to get put up next to like Matt, and then Jag's probably going to be the one that goes home. And that's not great for his game. So he's still very much so an active target within the house. It's just going to be a matter of, can he survive long enough to possibly just like survive. It's like, can he survive long enough to rebuild his position? Because early on, he was in a pretty solid position, but it's just that when things started getting hard and crumbling around him, he started crumbling under the pressure. And that's why his position has been so bad up until this point. It's not been very good for Jag, and in all honesty, I don't know if there's a lot of hope for him moving forward. There's definitely a possibility. I'm not saying it's out of the realm of possibility. I'm not saying he's like a Cameron or a Jag or Jared that needs to like win every single competition to move forward, and he's definitely not house target number 1, but he still is an active target that could be taken out sooner rather than later, and that's not very good for his game, which is why I have him here at number 8. Now at number 7, I have America. And America has been on a slow but steady upward trajectory for a couple weeks now. But, oh man, what was I going to say about America? Shit. Oh, she's still seen as a huge threat. Whew. Now at 7. Now at number 7, I have America. And America has been on a slow but steady upward trajectory, but she's nowhere near as in good of a position as she was in the beginning of this game. She is still actively being a huge target for the Cirie side of the house. Cirie, Felicia possibly, definitely Jared want to take America out sooner rather than later. America is a huge threat for them, and that is not great for America. America is on the block right now, and her odds of coming off of the block aren't that good. Out of the 6 people playing in the veto competition this week, it seems like only herself and maybe Cameron would take America off the block. And that's not very good for her. A 2 out of 6 chance of coming off the block is not as good as Corey's chances, which I'll talk about when I talk about his position. So America's not in a very good position. And if nominations stay the same, America goes home. Like, even though Corey and America are seen like this tandem, like this duo that's like inseparable, Corey is at least better like positioned in terms of like his relationships, and he has a lot more value in this game to other people as opposed to America. America has somebody who is playing actively, but she's playing it in a sloppy way where she's not necessarily building trust with other people, but rather she's just making these big moves and making herself a bigger target. She's not building any sort of social capital with the moves she's making. She's instead just executing the moves. Like the Izzy move, she was the main proponent of that. She was the main supporter. She was the one who initiated the action or initiated the plan to take Izzy out. And that could have been great for her in building her social relationships with the likes of like a Matt and a Jag and possibly even a Bowie Jane or a Nicole. But instead, she doesn't. And instead, Corey takes over that position. And that helps Corey out, but doesn't necessarily help America out. So as it stands right now, America's in a decent spot. She is in this new majority alliance that has formed, but America is probably going to get taken out very early on into the jury stage. I think she might be the first, second, maybe even third juror if things go really wrong for her. And I just don't see a very likely path for her to make it to the end as opposed to the people we're going to be talking about next. And that's really unfortunate because America is slowly becoming a more and more entertaining player on this cast. But in terms of the game and the strategy of Big Brother, she's just not very good, which is why I have to keep her here at number 7. Now at number 6, I think this is the biggest shock, the biggest change I've had on this list. And it's really disappointing to see her this low because she didn't actually do anything actively wrong to put her in this position, but she's simply just here due to circumstance. But at number 6, I have Cirie. And it's weird having Cirie this low because of how dominant of a position she was in throughout the entirety of the game beforehand. She was dominating this game. She had a vice grip on the entire social dynamics of the house. She was controlling everything. When they said, I want to do whatever the house wants, Cirie was the house. Cirie was the central figure that was leading all of these votes, and while she may have made some strategic blunders such as taking Heisam out over Cameron and taking Red out over Jag, Cirie has had such a pull on all of the moves made in this game that she's been so dominant. She has been controlling this game forever, but she's now in a position where a kayak possibly cost her $750,000. She didn't get to strategize for Jared for 2 days, and those 2 days was all it took for Jared to completely destroy her power structure. And it's really unfortunate. She didn't even do anything wrong necessarily to put herself in this bad of a position. It's simply because her allies just talked way too much and just blew up her position. And it sucks. It really sucks for Suri, because it now seems like she's kind of given up. Suri said if Cameron won the veto and used the veto to save either America or Corey, more likely America than Corey, Suri told Jared to put her up so she could go home, and then Jared would be in a much better position because of how closely associated Jared and Suri are to one another. It seems like she's almost given up on the game, and that's really sad to see, because it's apparent how much of a mental toll Big Brother has taken on Suri. Suri has said on multiple accounts how much harder of a game Big Brother is than Survivor, because with Survivor you're physically drained and like depleted, but on Big Brother you're mentally fatigued, and being mentally fatigued is always going to be so much more worse than being physically drained, at least in my opinion. And it's really disappointing to see that happen with Suri. I hope that she can, if Jared does go home, I hope Suri finds that light that she had in order to fight. I hope that if Jared goes home, Suri somehow like reinflames the Survivor Micronesia version of herself, where she was just cutthroat and ruthless and willing to do whatever it took to get to the end and win. I really hope that's what happens with Suri. I really hope she can find that inner strength within herself again to move forward in this game. Socially speaking, she's not in the worst position. She's definitely on the bottom of the house because of her association with Jared and how she was previously controlling the game, and that's obviously not great for her, but I don't think she's being actively targeted. I think there are definitely people in front of Suri that the other side of the house wants to take a shot at, most likely like Cameron and Jared, but Suri's still not in as good of a position she was, and especially not in comparison to the people I'm going to be talking about next. And while it is disappointing to have Suri this low, I can't justify putting her any higher, which is why I have her here at number 6. At number 5, I'm honestly surprised to have this person this high because of how much I've been dissing their game in the past, but somehow it's worked out for them. So at number 5, I have Bowie Jane. And it's weird having Bowie Jane this high, because how is she this high? Like, she's been so passive in this game, and I had been knocking her game for it because it had been ruining her position and her likelihood of making it further in the game. But because of how passive she's been perceived as somebody on this island, somebody who doesn't have any sort of allies, and she's been roped into this new majority alliance with Corey and America and Matt and Jag, and she's in a great position right now where she's in the middle. She is very firmly in the middle, where she has protection from the Suri side of things, and she is getting protection from like the Corey and America side of things. So there's not any real opportunity for Bowie Jane to go home anytime soon. However, Jared did talk about how if Cameron won the veto, that there is a possibility of Bowie Jane going up. And in that scenario, if Bowie Jane is sitting on the block next to Corey, specifically Corey, if Bowie Jane is sitting on the block next to Corey, Bowie Jane is most likely going to go home. Like, that's just that is a pretty solid fact that I feel confident in, but I just don't see Bowie Jane going up this week. I really don't, because if Cameron wins veto and pulls one of them off the block, Jag goes up. But if Jag wins the veto, pulls one of them off, Cameron goes up, and Cameron goes home. So I really don't see any sort of circumstance in which Bowie Jane is going to go up. It's so weird. It's just so funny to me how Bowie Jane had been so passive in the game, and I was starting to clock her as a coaster, somebody who wasn't doing anything. But it seems like after getting blindsided at the red vote, she's had this sort of reawakening and this like rebirth in the game, and now she's actively playing it. She's now like wanting to work with people who want to work with her, and now she's branching out and talking to people that she would have never talked about. Like, she was in the room when Corey and Jared had their fight. Like, she was in the room, and in any other circumstance, I don't think she would have ever been in the room. But because of how she's been brought into this new majority alliance, Bowie Jane is now being seen as a more valuable asset to people. Sure, she might not be able to win competitions as consistently as somebody like a Cameron or a Jared, but she still is a really solid number to have that for some reason the likes of Cirie and Felicia just discarded for seemingly no good reason. So as it stands right now, Bowie Jane, as weird as it sounds, is in a great position to at least make it far. Is she gonna win? That's a little questionable, and that's obviously going to be up for debate in the future rounds. But as it stands right now, I think Bowie Jane's in a really solid position to move forward, and it's honestly kind of exciting to see how she has this newfound hope, or at least how I have this newfound hope for Bowie Jane to move forward in this game. And it's honestly, I hope it's going to be fun to watch, and this newfound confidence I have in her is why I have her here at number 5. At number 4, I have Felicia. And it's ironic having her in this position specifically because last week when I did my power ranking, I had Izzy as number 4. And now Izzy is out of the house. And it seems like Felicia has taken her position. I don't think Felicia is going to get targeted anytime soon. I think there's way too many bigger threats set up in front of her before people even considering looking at her to take a shot. I think like Cameron, Jared, Jag, even like Cirie, and maybe even like an America. Like they're all targets in front of her that people are going to want to take out before they ever even consider looking to take a shot at Felicia. And that's great for her position. My only concern with her is that she seems a little bit clueless. She doesn't seem to fully understand why she stayed. She doesn't really understand how Corey and America were campaigning to keep her in the game to flip the vote on Izzy. But rather, it seems like Felicia just thinks that she might have just gotten lucky in that like Izzy was a bigger threat, and she might be thinking her social relationships with the other house guests are stronger than they actually are. And that concerns me because that might cause Felicia to become a little bit more passive in her gameplay. I think Felicia's in a really good spot right now. She's not in the newfound majority alliance. She's definitely not in that. But she's somebody who I think has enough social pull to convince other people that she is not a threat to be taken out in the near future. And I think that's going to be really good for her game. I just think Felicia, despite almost being evicted, she has solid backing behind her. Now that Izzy's out of the game, it seems like Cirie is probably going to readopt Felicia into her overall endgame power structure, and that's going to be great for Felicia's positioning. I just wonder if Felicia is going to be able to play on that or like execute that long term to benefit her in this game. And that's my biggest concern for her, is just, will she be able to do it? She was amazingly active in the beginning, but now it seems like her game is starting to slowly deteriorate. It seems like she's almost losing steam. And that's really unfortunate to see because Felicia is such an entertaining character. And not only is she an entertaining character, she's also somewhat decent at the game of Big Brother. So I really hope that Felicia is able to reposition herself and improve where she is in the game right now. But as it stands, she's in a good position, but not anything great. But I think she definitely has a lot of room to move forward, but it's just a matter of, can she further expand that room? And that big question is why I have to keep her here at number 4. At number 3, I have Matt. And Matt has been impressing me a lot in recent weeks. Matt has really been stepping up his gameplay, whereas in the beginning it seemed like he was blindly loyal to the people who pledged their allegiance to him. He was blindly loyal to Riley, and then once Riley was gone, he was blindly loyal to Cirie. But it seems like Matt has been slowly picking up the game more, where he's now actively making better decisions to improve his position. Where in the past, I had Matt high because of his relationship with Cirie and how much control Cirie had over the game. But now, Matt is this high because of how well ingratiated he is with a majority of the house. Even Jared wants to take a shot at Jag, when in actuality, he should probably be taking a shot at Matt. However, Matt has formulated that relationship into a way where Jared fully believes that Jared could most likely work with Matt moving forward in the future. And that is great for Matt, because that means Jared's most likely not going to target him. Even though Jared probably should if Cameron were to win the veto. it's just a matter of, will Cameron win the veto? I don't know. But I think when looking at Matt's overall game, the only times I can really critique him is in these really extraneous circumstances. I think when you look at these really niche instances of what if this happened and then this happened, then Matt would be in trouble. And that's definitely a big factor into why he's not number 1 or number 2, but he's still in a great position. I think he still has a really solid bond with the likes of like Suri and Felicia and definitely Jared. And now he's in this new majority alliance with Corey, America, and Jag. He's solidified this final 2 with Jag in the Minutemen, and he's doing a lot of good work. He's doing a lot of good work this week to set himself up for the future. And if he can continue to do that, there is a very high likelihood that if Matt makes it to the end game, final 6, final 5, final 4, he can just win his way out. Maybe like almost like an Xavier from Big Brother 23 or Kylan from Big Brother 23. Somebody who is really dependable and somebody who's very likely to beast out those end game comps. I have a lot of confidence in Matt being able to do that. It's just a matter of, is he going to be able to get far enough in the game to do that? And with all of the groundwork he's been laying out, I think that's a very high possibility. The only reason I didn't put him as like number 1 or number 2 is because I do fear that people are going to recognize that Matt is this big threat. The likes of like a Corey, America, or even a Nicole might recognize how big of a physical threat Matt might be in the end game, and they would be willing to take the shot at him. And that does scare me. But honestly, Matt's positioning is so good in this game, I have to put him here at number 3. At number 2, I have Corey. And in all honesty, if Corey wasn't on the block this week, I would have him at number 1. Like, straight up, Corey would be number 1 if he wasn't on the block next to America. I think with him actualizing the flip against Izzy, he has put himself in a great position. Obviously, him being on the block next to his closest ally in America isn't great, but neither of them are the target. And even if things go really bad with the veto, Corey is most likely going to stay next to America because Corey has made himself more valuable as an asset and as a player to other people in this game. With people like the likes of like Suri and definitely and probably even Jared, even though they just had this big fight and this big blow up, Jared probably values Corey in this game more than America, which is weird because they had a huge fight. Like, it wasn't like some like petty little like argument. No, this was like Big Brother 10 levels of like blow up and exposing one another's games. Like, it was huge. And in all honesty, Corey should have left that conversation or that fight in a worse position. However, he didn't. And I think that has to be attributed with his public speaking skills and with him being this communications major, because the way he executed and the way he presented his points just completely debunked anything Jared presented, in a position where now Corey is now seen as this more trustworthy figure, and Jared is somebody who is now house target like number 2 and a social pariah. Corey shouldn't be in this good of a position after that fight, but he is. He actively gains the trust of people like a Jag and a Matt and a Bowie Jane through that fight, because he's proving to them that he's not as much of a liar and a deceiver and as deceptive as Jared is being, and that is doing dividends for his game. In terms of the veto poll, it's very likely that Corey is going to be the one taken off the block to backdoor Cameron. I think if Jared wins veto, he's going to take Corey off to put Cameron up. If Corey wins, he's definitely pulling himself off. If Jag wins, he has a better relationship with Corey than America, so he would pull Corey off. And Bowie Jane, same thing. Bowie Jane was in the room where Corey and Jared had their fight, and Bowie Jane probably values Corey more than America, so Bowie Jane would probably use the veto on Corey. That's 4 out of 6 people that want to use the veto or are most likely going to use the veto on Corey. And that is an amazing position for him to be in. Is there a possibility that he goes home? Yes, absolutely. I think if he gets put on the block, I think if America gets pulled off the block by Cameron and Jag gets put up, there's definitely a possibility that Corey could go home next to Jag. I think if he's on the block next to Bowie Jane, there's definitely a possibility of them flipping the vote onto Corey because he might be perceived as a bigger threat. The possibility is there, but I don't know if there are people in the game that want to take Corey out as soon as like right now. Corey has set himself up so well for the end game. Corey is primed to make it far. If he can survive this week, he's going to make it to the end game. I think wholeheartedly. I think he will make it to the end game because of how he's positioned himself. And it's honestly masterful. I think if Suri wasn't in the house this season, Corey would be running strategic circles around everybody. I wholeheartedly believe that. And that's why I was so high on him in the preseason, because I really trust his abilities to do well in this game. And he's showing that right now in how he's positioned everything. So with all of that in mind and all of the positive work he's been doing, I have to put Corey this high at number 2. Now at number 1, the person who I believe is in the best position in this game is my preseason winner pick, Mecole. And straight up, Mecole is in an amazing position. She is definitely riding very well within the middle. She has been ingratiated into this new majority alliance with Corey, America, Matt, and Jag, but she still has her really solid bonds with the Brown Sugar Babes in Suri and Felicia and Jared. She's perfectly playing the middle, and people who should be targeting her aren't, because she's been playing so intentionally under the radar that nobody is perceiving her as a threat, when in actuality, she's probably one of the biggest threats moving forward. And I think that's just a testament to how good of a game player Mecole is. I think I've said in previous weeks that if Mecole was on a different season with a different cast that wasn't as active and chaotic as this cast, she would be in a dominant, like, controlling position. And she's even proving that now, that even in all of this chaos, in the midst of all of this messiness, she's still coming out on top because of how she's positioned herself with everybody else in the house. She's built a lot of good favor, and she has a lot of endgame scenarios. My biggest concern with Mecole in the past was that she didn't have any endgame scenarios where people were going to take her to the end, but now she does. She has the likes of a final 2 with Corey. She solidified a final 2 with Felicia. And I think she has a really solid relationship with Bowie Jane. Now she's opened up all of these avenues to bring her deeper into the game. If the Brown Sugar Babes stay loyal to one another, I don't think they are, but if they do, Mecole has a really good inroads with them to make it further than that. Make it further than, I think, was that like the Final 4? I think she does. In addition, I think she has the potential to win those endgame comps that like guarantee her safety. I think a Final 4 HOH, like some sort of quiz comp, Final 4 HOH, I think she could win that. Some sort of like days comp, I think she could win that. I think she is in a really solid position to move very deep into this game. And if she sits in that Final 2 next to the right people, she wins. I think Mecole has the best potential to move forward in this game. It sounds like Mecole almost has like a new life in this game, with the game just blowing up and like everything being exposed. Nobody's sitting there thinking, wow, I need to take Mecole out. Nobody is saying that, and that is the best position to be in this house, which is why I have her here as the new number 1. Overall, I don't know if you can tell this, but I'm really excited. I had talked about in the past how this season is slowly starting to become more and more of a steamroll, but after this last eviction with Izzy going home, it seems like this game has found new life and has started to pick up even more momentum than it did in the previous weeks. And it seems like these players are now starting to clock everything that's been going on in the house, and everybody's now starting to play to the best of their abilities, or at least trying to. Even people in the past that I've dissed for being passive, in the likes of Bowie Jane and Blue, they're now actively playing the game. And it's great to see that everybody is now in it. Everyone is in it. Everybody's head is in the game and trying to win. Some more than others, but still everybody in there is now actively trying to better themselves in this game. And that is amazing to see. And if this season continues that potential, I think this is probably going to be the best modern season of Big Brother we've had. From Big Brother, when I first made the delineation, I went from like the new era, from like Big Brother 23 to now. But now if we're going all the way back to Big Brother 16, I think Big Brother 25 could honestly come out on top, even over a season like Big Brother 20, a season that's widely regarded as one of the best. I think Big Brother 25 could honestly surpass that because it's just been that great. This house has been so dynamic and fluid, and the gameplay has been so interesting to watch. It's honestly amazing to see, and I have a lot of hopes for the future of this game. But that's what I have to think. Do you agree with me or do you disagree? Leave a comment down below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share with your friends if you have any of those, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace.